Ladies and gentlemen, please find your seats. Our program will begin shortly.
אברהם, יצחק ויעקב, הוא יברך את חיילי צבא הגנה לישראל.
For 124 years, the Zionist Organization of America has stood firm as the Jewish people's most reliable ally and protector. ZOA led the fight in the U.S. to re-establish the Jewish state 5 generations ago. In the 20th century, it stood by Israel as the young country matured into a leading nation on the world stage despite all odds. Today, under the 28-year stewardship of Morton Klein, ZOA flourishes as a nonpartisan advocate for a strong U.S.-Israel alliance, Israel's unequivocal right to defend herself, and dismantling policies that threaten Israel's safety and Jewish life. Anti-Israel rhetoric and overt anti-Semitic attacks have risen to alarming levels. On college campuses, on social media, in corporate boardrooms, and even halls of government, open malice toward the State of Israel has become the new normal. The winds of change demand ZOA's unflinching support for the Jewish state now more than ever before. ZOA brings the fight for Israel to 4 main arenas: media and education, government advocacy, student support, and law and justice. The message about Zionism and anti-Israel bias has been clear and consistent for decades. Promote the truth about Israel's right to its land, its claim to Jerusalem, and the morality of its actions in the face of violent threats. Among its nonpartisan positions, ZOA has long held that an undivided Jerusalem and Jewish state including Judea and Samaria, is just, and that a two-state solution would create a substantial terrorist threat. Media appearances, leadership programs, events, and educational initiatives organized by the ZOA influenced the global community toward greater appreciation for the modern state of Israel and its accomplishments. ZOA has earned the unparalleled trust of high-ranking officials in both the U.S. and Israeli governments through years of relationship building. Full-time ZOA professionals meet with senators and congressmen to lobby for the issues that are important to both countries. Notably, ZOA publicly opposed the Oslo Accords, Gaza withdrawal, and Iran deal, while pushing for the U.S. Embassy's move to Jerusalem and recognition of Israel's sovereignty over the Golan Heights. ZOA officials routinely testify before Congress on key issues such as anti-BDS legislation and run awareness campaigns to support the appointment of pro-Israel officials and combat those hostile to Israel. Over 100 campuses across the country are served by ZOA community building events, speaker series, mentoring groups, educational programs, seminars, and student trips to Israel. In an effort to promote healthy discourse around Zionism and Israel, ZOA President Morton Klein has personally traveled to a number of major universities for speaking engagements to tell the truth about Israel and encourage thoughtful debate among Jewish and non-Jewish students. By training the next generation to effectively advocate for Israel and refute the anti-Zionist propaganda flooding campuses, ZOA works to ensure that students feel safe and proud to express their Jewish identity and Zionism at college. In 2002, ZOA established the Center for Law and Justice to defend Israel in the courts, litigating the most complex lawsuits on behalf of Jewish students, terror victims, Jerusalem's legal status, and other cases with ripple effects for Israeli citizens and Jews across the world. ZOA led the groundbreaking fight to reinterpret Title VI of the Civil Rights Act to protect Jewish students against discrimination, has filed numerous amicus briefs with the Supreme Court to clarify anti-Jewish policies, and fought for Israel to be listed as the birthplace on U.S. passports for citizens born in Jerusalem. The Zionist Organization of America's founders dreamt of peace and dignity for the Jewish people in their rightful homeland. 124 years later, ZOA is stronger than ever, but the fight for Israel's future is still on, and we're not slowing down anytime soon.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Emmy-winning TV host, radio host, and best-selling author, our MC for this evening, Rita Cosby.
I love that. They played Lovely Rita Meter Maid from the Beatles. How great is that? I just want to say welcome everybody to the most important, the most incredible Zionist event of the year, the ZOA Superstar Gala. Of all the titles and things that I have been introduced, the most proud, and all of you know this in the room, I am always so honored to be with you every year. I am so proud to be the daughter of a Warsaw upriser who grew up outside the Warsaw Ghetto and tried to help those inside the ghetto at all costs. That, to me, is the most important title of all. And for me to be here, especially right now, I can't think of a more important moment where we're going to be honoring some incredible heroes for freedom tonight. Today is the 87th anniversary of Kristallnacht. We must never, ever forget. It's been 2 years since the horrible occurrence of October 7th, the outrage that we all felt, the outrage every freedom-loving person in the world felt. And there are still 5 hostages that remain there in Gaza, 5 hostage bodies 4 Israeli, and 1 Thai worker. We must pray that they all come home, and they better come home soon. Tonight, I think this mission, your mission, has never been more profound and more important in the world. As we just heard, the rise of anti-Semitism that we talk about on our shows all the time. It is outrageous, and good people of all faiths must stand together. I hope next year that this room goes tenfold. We must never forget what happened, and we must remind, especially more than ever, young generations to stand up and say, never, ever again. Tonight, we're going to hear from those who have stood up at great costs and who lead us all and inspire us all every single day. We have incredible presenters. We have incredible recipients, and I know that you will be as moved as I will be, I'm sure, tonight. I love you all. There is no way when Alan and Mort said, Rita, will you join us? I said, I don't care where I am in the world, I would not want to be anywhere else than with all of you tonight. I am in the company of true heroes. Thank you for including me tonight, guys. We're going to start with some beautiful anthems, the American and of course the Israeli anthem. And please welcome the great Sam Bodenheimer. Sam is also known as Bodie. He is an acclaimed singer, songwriter, and producer. And if I could ask all of you in the room, please rise as we do the anthems, the American and also the Israeli anthem. Thank you all.
Whoa, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we had at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous night, the ramparts we watched were so gallantly, and the rockets' red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave? Kolo balevav benima nefesh odi homia vate bizrach kadima ayin letzion Sophia. Oh Lord, Ativatenu ארצנו, ארץ ציון, ירושלים.
Everybody, a big round of applause for the man known as Bodie. I know I speak for all of you in this room, and we're going to hear from him later, but the great Mort Klein, every time there has been something that put Israel in jeopardy or questions about Israel, Mort Klein was the first person to always stand up. And I have never been more proud to be here tonight with ZOA. And Mort Klein, we love you. Could we do a big round of applause for the great Mort Klein? It's a bittersweet night because tonight, Charlie Kirk was supposed to be here. My friend Charlie. I met Charlie many times here. Charlie and I knew each other through the years. So tonight, Charlie was supposed to be here, also joining us on the stage. I know he traveled with Mort to Israel. He was such a huge supporter of ZOA. He was always so proud of ZOA and such a staunch supporter of Israel and freedom. So he had agreed to be the featured speaker tonight. And of course, we sadly know what happened to him. He was a man who was of courage, a man who was trying to bring all sides together. And we know what happened to him on September 10th at that university when he was trying to speak to all sides. We must never forget Charlie's courage. I know he inspired so many people in this room, including me. And I wanted to make sure that tonight we play a short video. And if we could, at the very end of it, let's observe a moment of silence to the man who was supposed to be here tonight as one of our featured speakers, one of the most stalwart supporters of the State of Israel, our dear friend, Charlie Kirk.
That's why Charlie Kirk's loss is even a greater loss. He would always get questions about Israel and the Arab-Israeli situation, and he took these people apart as to why they should support Israel, why Israel's the one to support. That is the Arabs and the Islamists who are the vicious haters and monsters. And he changed young people's minds about Israel with incredible knowledge.
The war started because 1,300 Jews were killed and 200 were taken hostage. And when you declare war on Israel, expect a firestorm in reaction. If Israel laid down all of their weapons and said our military is no more, what would happen? There are well over 40 Muslim-majority countries in the world, over 1 billion Muslims. Israel is the size of New Jersey, and it has half the world's Jewry, about 7 million people. Why can't you just let Israel exist and leave it alone? Why the focus? Why the intensity? Why the anger? Joining us now is Mort Klein. Mort, thank you so much for taking the time. I remember walking the streets of Jerusalem with you, and you and I have been texting together. You are the president of the Zionist Organization of America. Mort, welcome to the program.
It's great to be with a Bible-believing Zionist who feels the truth deep in his heart. It's an honor to be with you.
So, Mort, what is going on right now? I mean, you have a lot of wisdom, and you've been around for quite some time. I'm getting attacks from every possible direction, and it is a obviously emotional time. You've been through a lot of different chapters and fights in the fight for Israel and the fight for the West. Walk us through this, because I really respect your advice and your wisdom What's going on right now?
What an enormous loss, and what a great courage he was. I want to continue the program. We have so many wonderful people to honor here tonight. We're going to be hearing from Rhonda later, but I just wanted to make sure that we begin by thanking our dinner co-chairs. This beautiful night, and it certainly is a beautiful, powerful one, could not be possible without our great dinner co-chairs, Susan and Sheldon Good, and Rhonda Small. A big round of applause for them. You're going to be hearing more from them later this evening. But for now, also I wanted you to know, and ladies, this is for all of us in the room, Susan and Rhonda are spearheading the new and exciting ZOA Women's Leadership Division. So it's Girl Power Night, all right? Due to an unexpected health emergency, Susan couldn't be with us, but you're going to hear from her via video a little bit later on. Also, I want to make sure that we acknowledge some great folks. We always have such incredible people here in the room, and I want to make sure we give a big round of applause to some of our esteemed guests. We have a lot of them, but here's a few of them, guys. Sarah Goldman Golobeck. She is Leo Terrell's Chief of Staff. Where is she? All right. And Leo 2.0 is coming up, my old friend. There he is. He's going to be coming up later. Also, Yehuda Kaploon, who is the Ambassador Designate, State Department Special Envoy to monitor and combat anti-Semitism. All right. Bravo. Bravo. Also, my dear friend, where is he? Ambassador Jeffrey Bartos. Where is Jeff? There he is. Awesome. Bravo. Bravo. You do so much for the Jewish people. Jeff is like one of the biggest fighters of Israel. Every time on my shows, I'm like, I gotta have Jeffrey. He's so great. They're lucky to have you there at the UN. Bravo, my friend. Also, Alex Trayman. Where is Alex? CEO of Jewish News and Syndicate. Where is it? There he is, Alex. How are you, Alex? Thank you for joining us again. Also, Dr. Chiron Skinner. Where is she? There she is. Dr. Skinner, it's great to see you, my friend. Also, Professor Alan Dershowitz is in the house. There he is. We love you, Professor Dershowitz. We love you. And also, Lieutenant Colonel Yaron Bosika with the IDSF. Where is the Lieutenant Colonel? There he is. Thank you. What an honor to have you here. Thank you. We also have a jam-packed program, and you could tell we have some tremendous, tremendous honorees. To introduce our first recipient, who, by the way, don't we all hope she's going to be the next governor of New York? We love Elise. Didn't she take down the Harvard presidents and all those other college presidents? And it's great to have her back. I know you were here when Speaker Johnson was here, so we're so honored to have you here tonight, Elise. Congresswoman Stefanik, it's an honor. It's a real honor. We're thrilled that you're in the race for freedom. It's so great. And to introduce her, even though I just did a little bit, but to introduce her, we have the great Dr. Miriam Adelson. She is going to be introducing via video. First of all, huge round of applause for everything that she and her late husband did for ZOA. They do so much. We're going to be playing a brief video, and then also if we could have coming up to present the award to the wonderful Congresswoman and future governor, if we could also have come up Ben Choak and also Mort Klein, because you will be presenting the awards. It'd be wonderful to have both of you come up, of course, the founder of NORPAC and also the great Mort Klein. And in the meantime, please draw your attention to the video of Miriam Adelson.
Good evening, dear friends, and good evening, Representative Alice Stefanik, House Republican Conference Chair. I want to wish you congratulations on receiving the ZOA's Mort Zuckerman's Maccabees Warrior Award for good leadership and for your fight against Israel and Jew hatred on colleges' campuses. I want to tell you that when I heard you talking to the head of the universities, I said to myself, she has the guts to say the truth. How could we come to a period when we don't have guts to say this truth? Sheldon used to say, stand up for what you believe in, even if you stand up alone. And you showed us and all the world courage. You had courage to do it, and you stood up for what you believe in, and it was fantastic for me to hear you talking like this. You are a great leader. Many people should have followed you. It was just a testimony of your courage to stand up for the Jewish people and for Israel and for the free world. Here you are coming and doing what humanity asks you to do. I wish that I could be there to congratulate you in person and give you a big hug, but I had knee surgery recently, so I could not come. Thank you for what you are. Thank you for continuing to be what we are, a brave lady. I stand from here to you, a hug for all your achievements, and I hope to visit you in the office of New York Governor next year after the election. So congratulations, and thank you very much.
I am profoundly honored to speak in the hallowed halls of your Knesset, in your eternal capital, the holy city of Jerusalem. Today I stand before you not just as a leader in the United States Congress, but as a lifelong admirer, supporter, and true friend of Israel and the Jewish people.
And thank you to Mort Klein and the ZOA for your tireless work building a strong, effective, and respected Jewish voice around the world.
How would you describe the attitude of the United Nations as a whole toward Israel?
I would say it's anti-Semitic. I will ask you one more time. Does calling for the genocide of Jews violate Harvard's rules of bullying and harassment? Yes or no?
It depends on the context.
It does not depend on the context. The answer is yes, and this is why you should resign. These are unacceptable answers across the board.
Everybody, if you could please stand, please welcome the incredible Congresswoman Elise Stefanik.
I was the backup to Miriam tonight, and we weren't sure if she would get her speech together or the video together. And being the backup to Miriam Adelson is itself a tremendous honor. I do a lot of politics, president of NORPAC, 30 years. Elise Stefanik is a generational talent. We are incredibly lucky to have such a person in our leadership and pursuing higher office. And I am thrilled to be up here, and I yield any time I may have left to the Honorable Congresswoman Stefanik.
Thank you so much. It is truly an honor to be here. Let me begin by thanking my friend, Dr. Adelson, not only for her beautiful introduction, but for her extraordinary example to all of us fighting for America, the Jewish people, and for Israel. You are, in every sense, a true Maccabee warrior. Her life's work, from healing patients as a doctor, to supporting life-saving medical research, to her unwavering philanthropy and fearless advocacy, it has changed lives and strengthened the Jewish people across the globe. She has never wavered in the defense of Israel, nor in her belief in the moral clarity of America's friendship with the Jewish homeland. She continues to inspire us all because of this selfless work on behalf of America and of Israel. I am honored for her encouragement and her support and her kind words as I launch my campaign for governor of New York State to save New York. And thank you so much to my good friend, Dr. Ben. It's so fitting that I'm receiving this award from you. My strong relationship with you and NORPAC goes back over a decade to my first campaign for Congress when you took a chance on me when so few believed. You have been dear friends of mine ever since. You and NORPAC are admired and respected throughout the country because of your sincerity and your steadfastness in helping and supporting so many of us in the fight. It is humbling to receive this award from ZOA, which has stood for over a century as one of the great pillars of Jewish advocacy, Jewish identity, and Jewish strength. I want to especially thank Mort, who has been a fearless leader standing up for Zionist principles and the Jewish homeland in the face of any and all challenges. Thank you, Mort. We are here at a time about 6 weeks away from Hanukkah, the Festival of Lights, which makes tonight's honor especially meaningful. Hanukkah, after all, is the story of a people who refused to surrender, a small band of freedom fighters who took a stand for their faith, their homeland, and their future. The Maccabees proved that courage, faith, and conviction can defeat tyranny and darkness. And I want to take a minute to remember two very important modern-day Maccabees, heroes of New York and of the Jewish people who are on our hearts and on our minds, Omer Nutra and Itay Chen. Omer and Itay were both murdered by Hamas on October 7th, and their bodies were taken hostage into Gaza. Many of us got to know their families and the families of both the living hostages and the hostages who were deceased. And we held our breaths for 2 years waiting for their return. Because of the tireless efforts of President Trump and his administration, these hostages were finally returned home. Omer and Itay were laid to rest this past week, and I continue to pray, we continue to pray, for the few remaining hostages to be returned to Israel and their families. When I look out across this room, I see an entire gathering of modern-day Maccabees. After all, the ZOA, at its heart, an organization of Maccabees, of proud, unapologetic defenders of the Jewish people and the Jewish state. That example is exemplified by Mort and by board members like Dr. Ben and, of course, Dr. Adelson. And it is exemplified by tonight's other honorees, all of my good friends, including the Trats, Ambassador Leiter, Irit, who's a dear friend, Ambassador Leiter, whom I met in Jerusalem, my friend Ambassador Danan, who stands up for Israel in the literal lion's den at the UN, and also by my good friend Leo Terrell. Every single one of these leaders has stood on the front lines, whether in public service, in education, in philanthropy, or in activism, standing up for the truth, the Jewish people, and for the values that bind our two nations together. Being a warrior, as the Maccabees were, does not just require courage or strength, it requires vision, the foresight to understand where the next battlefield lies. For years, my service in Congress, where I have fought tirelessly to combat anti-Semitism and strengthen the U.S.-Israel alliance. I am proud to be one of the foremost champions of the Jewish people in the United States Congress, ensuring Israel's right to defend itself and fiercely opposing efforts by some of my colleagues to undermine it. I have stood shoulder to shoulder with the American Jewish community and the people of Israel through war, terror, and tragedy. But a few years ago, I realized that there was another front in this battle, a battlefield that we are losing, and one much closer to home. University campuses where we saw a scourge and skyrocketing of anti-Semitism after Hamas's terrorist attacks on October 7th. I will never forget that hearing. Did you all see that hearing? And it was a simple question, and it was a question I did not prepare, and I asked it expecting them to say yes. It was not a political question, it was a moral one, and I asked it to the presidents of Harvard, MIT, and Penn, and that question was this: does calling for the genocide of Jews violate your university's code of conduct? I expected them to say yes, but one after the other said, quote, "It depends on the context," and the world heard. Let me tell you, it does not depend on the context. It set off a global reckoning and delivered accountability in higher education that is still just beginning. This seminal moment revealed a moral and academic rot at the heart of our most elite institutions, a rot that fuels anti-Semitism while pretending to champion inclusion. And because of that hearing and subsequent ones, many cowardly university presidents were forced to resign, and we have so many to go. And that was only the beginning. This work is ongoing, and we are exposing the truth about how anti-Semitism has been normalized and institutionalized in American higher education. We will not stop until accountability is real and until every Jewish student in this country can walk across campus without fear. That fight continues. And as I look around my beloved home state, I know there is another battlefield that now demands our and my focus, the one closest to home right here in the state of New York. That is why I am running for governor of New York. Because today, New York is not just a city and state in crisis, it is the epicenter of the battle for the very Western values that have shaped America. The fight for democracy, for capitalism, for the dignity of work, for the belief that through effort and perseverance, anyone can achieve the American dream. That fight now runs straight through our streets, our schools, and straight to City Hall. These are the values that made the United States the greatest force for freedom in human history. And they are the very values that are now under attack. We know that we are at a tipping point when the most important city in the world elects an anti-Semite, defund the police, tax-hiking communist as mayor, a mayor who openly traffics in sympathy for those who chant "globalize the Intifada," a mayor who refuses to condemn the glorification of terror, who has said that he would arrest Prime Minister Bibi Netanyahu, whose family history and political ideology is steeped in sympathy for suicide bombers and terrorists, a mayor who said Hamas should not lay down their arms, a mayor who campaigned with the unindicted co-conspirator of the 1993 World Trade Center bombing that killed New Yorkers. This from the person who will lead a city with over 1 million Jewish people. And this mayor was endorsed by none other than the weakest and worst governor in America, Kathy Hochul. And unlike the weak Kathy Hochul, when dangerous anti-Semitic figures like Mamdani and members of the Socialists spew hatred towards the Jewish people and justify terror, I will not stay silent. I will call it what it is: anti-Semitism, bigotry, Jew hatred, and anti-Americanism. And at this very moment, when New Yorkers were looking for strength and moral clarity, our weak Governor Kathy Hochul endorsed this jihadist for mayor. She propelled him to this office, putting every Jewish New Yorker at risk. The truth is, she threw New Yorkers of this great city under the bus, all because of her abysmal polling. And New Yorkers in this city and across our great state will never, ever forget it. This battle in New York is not just about values, it's about the daily reality of life in this city and state. A dark reality shaped by rising costs and crimes and unsafe streets and subways, anti-Semitism skyrocketing, swastikas being drawn on yeshivas, by crushing costs, unaffordable housing, and failing schools. We pay the highest taxes in the nation with a city in decay that is unaffordable, unlivable, and unsafe. We've had 2 decades of single-party Democrat rule, and the results are an absolute failure. As a wife and a mother, I see it. As a New Yorker, I live it. And as your next governor, I will fix it. We will make New York affordable by championing policies that can actually make it happen, removing barriers to housing so we can build more of it, the only way to fix our housing crisis. We will unleash energy independence to lower the cost of energy and utility bills. We will bring fiscal sanity to Albany, and we will cut taxes. But this fight is not just an economic fight. This is a moral one. And this is particularly important in New York, the beloved home to more Jews than anywhere outside of Israel, where anti-Semitic incidents hit an all-time high last year, the highest count in the nation. It is no coincidence that the morning after Mamdani was elected, a swastika was painted outside a yeshiva in Brooklyn. That is what Kathy Hochul's New York looks like. New Yorkers deserve a leader who will stand up unequivocally and say, "Not on my watch." Hochul hasn't just allowed this downward spiral. Hochul has blessed it, signed it, embraced it, and endorsed it. When Jewish New Yorkers needed Kathy Hochul's leadership the most, she bent the knee to Kami Mamdani and allowed the full-blown takeover of the Democrat Party by the anti-Semitic socialists. And New Yorkers, Republicans, Democrats, and independents, we deserve so much better. My friends, the story of the Maccabees is not ancient history. It is a call to every generation to stand up when others shrink back, to speak truth when others stay silent, and to keep faith when the odds seem impossible. That is the spirit I see in this room tonight. That is the spirit of Jewish New Yorkers and Jewish Americans. That is the spirit that must and will save New York. So let's get this done. Let's stand up for courage, the light, the truth, and let's save New York State. Thank you. God bless you. God bless New York. God bless the United States of America. Honored to be here. Thank you. Another big round of applause for Congresswoman Elise Stefanik. Fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. We're going to continue the program now. And to introduce our next speaker, I want to call up somebody who is a great friend of Mark Klein. He's a great friend of mine. He is also the top morning host, radio host in New York and in America. He is also one of the biggest supporters ever of Israel. He's definitely in the best shape because he works out more than anybody in this place. But he is also one of the finest human beings I know. Please welcome the great
Sid Rosenberg, and we have a little video about Sid.
Before the show started this morning, we heard a series of booms, very loud. I can tell you my body shook, and I'm not a slim guy. Then we heard sirens, and then some young girl literally ran, grabbed my arm, said, "Seed, seed, let's go." She literally dragged me into a bomb shelter where we spent the next 3 minutes, 10 men and 10 women, nestled against each other while the bomb threat went away. And I have to tell you, to start the day like that is a bit unnerving. And these people go through that in that area sometimes as many as 20 times a day. And even though I've never been to Israel, I pride myself on being a very strong Jewish boy out of Brooklyn. And I was looking forward to getting here one day. And this is the time to come. So the decision to come now, I think it was the easy decision. This is the time to be here. I urge all my Jewish friends all over the world, come here now, because A, the people here need you, and B, when you do that, you tell the bad guys, Hamas and Hezbollah and all these terrorists, we're not afraid. Ladies and gentlemen, how long have we tried to live peacefully with these people? A two-state solution. How many wars, how many years, how many buses have to get blown up? How many pizzerias have to get blown up? How many of our daughters have to get raped and babies thrown in ovens before we come to the realization, wow, after 70 years and longer, that they don't want a two-state solution. They want to destroy us. It's enough. No two-state solution. Wipe out Hamas.
Gotta love that guy, right? I'm Sid Rosenberg, and I'm running for mayor in 2029. Do I have your vote? I'm not even kidding. Dershowitz, what do you think? I'll be a good mayor? What do you think, Alan, huh? Come on. Somebody's got to take this terrorist out in 4 years. Why not me? So, I'm on a bit of a whirlwind tour the last couple of weeks. I made a lot of news last weekend. My video went viral. Just be prepared. I'm going to curse tonight. I'll be the first and only one, I promise you. But I spoke at the RJC in Las Vegas last Saturday night. My cousin Norm Coleman, Matt Brooks, the Republican Jewish Coalition, they're a great group of people. They're great. And I was the guy who said, Tucker Carlson's a douchebag. Sorry, Mrs. Klein. I'm sorry. I also said I've got a word for Candace Owens, and it rhymes with punt. But that's for a different. Danny Dedone loves that. He loves it. Danny loves it. See, we got issues on the Republican side, too. Thank God for President Trump. You know, President Trump, my friend the president, actually appointed me to his Holocaust Memorial Museum Council. I'll be sworn in Washington, D.C. on December the 8th. So I'm officially a part of the President Trump administration fighting for the Holocaust Museum in Washington, D.C. But I take pride in my fight every day. Every day. You know, I didn't grow up the most religious kid in Brooklyn. I didn't observe Shabbat. I didn't recognize every holiday. But like a lot of folks, there's a lot more folks like me out there. October 7th changed my whole life. Changed my whole life. I woke up October the 8th, and I was never more proud to be Jewish in my whole life. I was on a subway car about 6 months after October 7th. I was on the downtown 4 train. And there's a gentleman with a yarmulke. It was a Friday morning. He lived in Brooklyn. He's trying to get home for Shabbat. And some guy walks over to him. Some guy was half drunk, 11 o'clock in the morning, minding his own business, a Jewish man. The guy sticks his finger on his chest, and he goes, I ain't going to fight for you, you genocidal mother effer. And he kept yelling at this poor guy on the train. And I was sitting right next to the rabbi. And I will tell you that this other person would have kicked my ass easily. But I didn't sit there. I stood up. And I said, if you're going to fight him, you're going to fight me too. And what did the guy do? The guy walked to the other end of the subway car, kept yelling and screaming, but neither one of us was in physical danger anymore. What am I telling you? I'm telling you that with all the yelling and screaming, there's a lot of cowards out there. And we fight. Jews are resilient. October 7th was the last, but it won't be the last. The war is not over. It may be in Israel today, but the war is not over. And now, like Elise talked about, we've elected a communist, socialist, Marxist, jihadist, terrorist as mayor of New York City. Shame on us, but I guarantee you, not one person in this room voted for Mamdani. I can guarantee you that. But I'm not here for me tonight. I usually get the awards. This is different for me. It's kind of weird. I have a room in my house in Rockaway Beach. It's a whole room. The awards are piled to the ceiling, I swear to God. Cops, Israel, Jewish. I'm going to host a dinner next week for the One Israel Fund. But tonight I'm here for somebody else. I got to know this guy the last couple of months. He's got a very important job. And you talk about great fighters for the Jewish people. This guy is right at the very top of the list, along with my friend Yehuda Kaplan. This guy's going to be the anti-Semitism envoy. How about giving him a round of applause? Come on. This whole table is a bunch of heroes. Leo Terrell, Danny Danone, Morton Klein. Morton called me a couple of weeks ago. I was walking in the city, and I've never been here before. It's my first time at ZOA. He said, "You want to come to the dinner?" And I said, "I'd be honored. Do I have a job? Do I have to do something?" He said, "Yeah, you can introduce Ophir Okunis." I said, "Oh my God, how fantastic is that?" So thank you for inviting me tonight, Morton. My first time here, and truly a beautiful event. Thank you so much. Thank you. But let me tell you about Ophir. He grew up in Tel Aviv. How many folks in this audience have been to Tel Aviv? It's not the coolest place in the whole world, let's be honest, right? Miami's kind of cool, but Tel Aviv kicks its ass. So he grew up in Tel Aviv, and he was a youth correspondent. He did his service in education and the Youth Corps. And then his dedication to public service really took stride. That has been consistently clear in Okunis' whole life. He studied political science and international relations, and he entered the workforce of public communication and advocacy. You knew this guy was going to be a superstar, and he is. Let me give you some of the things Okunis has done over his very, very impressive career. Let's start with this. He was elected to the Knesset in 2009, serving in various capacities, including Deputy Speaker and Chairman of committees for the Knesset. How cool is that? He was appointed Minister of Innovation, Science, and Technology from 2015 to 2020. He did it again from 2022 through 2024. Also Minister of Labor, Social Affairs, and Social Services in 2020. Minister of Regional Corporation in 2020 and 2021. And since May of 2024, he now serves as the Israeli Consul General here in New York. He's got a very important job. Bibi loves him. Bibi loves him. Anybody else tired, by the way, of the Bibi criticism in New York and Israel? I hear somebody criticize Bibi, I want to punch him out across the face. I really do. But Ophir works very closely with Bibi. I think he likes Herzog. I have no idea. Do you like Herzog? I like Herzog. He's a nice guy. He's a nice guy. So without further ado, here he is, my friend, great friend of America, great friend of Israel, and a very deserving award winner tonight, the great Ophir Okunis.
ZOA has been at the forefront of promoting Zionist ideals since even before the founding of the modern state of Israel. In the darkest days, you can see the light. And the light is that the most Jewish communities are united these days. And this unity reflects actually strength and not the opposite. You cannot be silent anymore, and we will not be victims anymore. Thank you, Sid, for the kind introduction and for your interviews. My friends, usually it's very early in the morning. And thank you all. I'm so very glad to be here. It's inspiring to be in a room of real Zionists right here in New York, especially during these times. As we are living in one of the most challenging times for the Jewish people since the early days of Zionism and for Jewish communities here in the United States. And as a proud Israeli Zionist, I am saying, tonight we are all proud and strong Zionists of America. Nobody will make us be Jews with trembling knees again. No one, nowhere. The opposite is the truth. But before I speak more about Zionism and the current issues, I want to thank my dear friend Mort, the ZOA Board of Directors and the ZOA professional team for your resilience and determination to always defend the Jewish nation and the state of Israel. You are doing it no matter where, no matter what. You continue to share the truth in a time where lies are taking over our society. So, my friends, on behalf of the State of Israel, thank you. My friends, it is no surprise that this great organization was the first to be established in the United States. And since then, continues to be a leader among the organizations here in the United States. You work to advocate for a strong US-Israeli relationship without ever apologizing. You are training the next generation of proud Zionists to never apologize. And you are supporting our soldiers and communities during our toughest times has not gone unnoticed. Your contribution was fundamental to the establishment of the State of Israel. And my friends, true friendship is not only tested during the good times, but the tough times as well. And you are doing it, yes? And in my opinion, my friends, this is one of Israel's most challenging times since our establishment in 1948. We have found ourselves being attacked by various democratic leaders and countries, especially in Europe, I have to tell you, who rather stand with the cruel terror organization than the only democracy in the Middle East. They have put us, this is unbelievable, they have put us under pressure to release our hostages instead of putting the pressure on the savages who kidnapped them. This was not helpful, as you know. They accused us of committing a genocide instead of those who burned whole families alive, raped hundreds of women, choked to death children like the Bivas boys. So instead of claiming that Israel is committing a genocide, look across the border and watch the GoPro film that Hamas broadcasted live on October 7th. That is a genocide. So don't you dare preach us. And don't you dare criticize us for defending our people. My friends, to make things worse, they decided to reward these monsters with the recognized of a so-called Palestinian state. I will continue to say it, like Mort knows and others, Ambassador Danon, Ambassador Leiter, Shalom, both of them, all of them, knows that I have been saying it since my first day in the Knesset 16 years ago. And now it's the official policy of the State of Israel. There will never be a Palestinian state in Judea and Samaria. It has been tried, and it has failed. It was tried in 1947, and instead of accepting, they launched a full-out war. They don't want a two-state solution. They want a one-state solution, one without the state of Israel. My friends, peace is only possible when two sides are truly willing to come to the table. And time after time after time after time, they have not and won't come to the table. So I want to ask these so-called democratic leaders who support them. Do you want me to mention their names? Or no? I will. I'll do it because you said yes. So, France, United Kingdom, Australia, Canada, and others. And I want to ask them from here, are there human rights in this so-called state? Are people part of the LGBTQ community allowed to walk freely in the streets? Do women have the same rights men? We know the answer, and I have to tell you, so do they. These leaders must look upon their own societies before criticizing ours, and they must stop creating policies based on their own small political interests. But my friends, in these challenging times, we have many great lights among the darkness. The relationship between the President of the United States, Donald J. Trump, and the Prime Minister of the State of Israel, Benjamin Netanyahu, is stronger than ever. I don't know any time in our history that our relationship was so strong like it is today. We have an army filled of young, brave, and resilient soldiers who are not only fighting for the values of the State of Israel, but for the values of the United States and the entire Western world and Western civilization. Because what we are seeing around the world these days, my friends, is a clash of civilization. My friends, at the time where our Zionist identity is being questioned, we must all continue to be strong, proud, and united. We are all part of this great nation, one nation. We must keep our unity. Unity is the key to our success. We understand that when we unite around our shared values, evil will never win. Now, it is time, after 130 years, to create the new Zionist revolution. And together, my friends, we will do it. I am proud to be an Israeli Zionist, and I'm honored to be part of the Zionists of America. Thank you all. Good night. Thank you.
Everyone, another big round of applause for Ambassador Ophir Akunis. And Sid, great introduction, my friend. It was awesome. Thank you. Everybody, in addition to the esteemed honorees that we have this evening, ZOA's pro-Israel, pro-Jewish space is evidenced by so many supporters and so many friends of ZOA around the globe. And we have a little video that we want to play now to talk about the mega power of ZOA.
The ZOA is the premier organization of advocacy for the rights of Jews to live securely in their indigenous homeland of Israel. Please welcome the president of the ZOA, Morton Klein. Morton, so glad to have you here.
Thank you.
The horrific terrorist attack on the Jewish people of Israel has shaken the world, but yet we see these crazy things happening, especially on the most elite college campuses, where people act like they're supporting Hamas. and it's Israel's fault. This has to be troubling for you as a Jewish leader.
It is shocking. And one of the reasons this is happening, I believe, is that the students, the kids, and really many people in America do not know the truth of the Arab-Islamic war against Israel, the Jews, and the West. They believe that Israel stole this land from a sovereign Arab country called Palestine. There's never been an Arab country called Palestine. It was a region. In fact, Palestine is a Roman name. So the issue is not about land. It's not about statehood. It's about destroying Israel.
Please give a big round of applause to someone who's an enormous, stalwart supporter of Israel, our friend. She is the chair of the House Republican Conference and the great Congresswoman Elise Stefanik.
And thank you to Mort Klein and the ZOA for your tireless work building a strong, effective, and respected Jewish voice around the world.
I will ask you one more time. Does calling for the genocide of Jews violate Harvard's rules of bullying and harassment? Yes or no?
It depends on the context.
It does not depend on the context. The answer is yes, and this is why you should resign. These are unacceptable answers across the board.
I can't thank you enough for your bold, courageous leadership all year long. There are often times where on particular issues, there are people, groups, unable, unwilling to step up and sound off on what instinctively we know is the right path forward for policy. But you can always count on Mort Klein and ZOA and really all of the great team to courageously stand up, even if they are going to be the only ones or the first ones to put their necks out there on very important issues for the United States, for our national security, for the U.S.-Israel alliance, for the Middle East and the world.
My wife Kelly and I have made multiple trips to Israel. We love Israel. A strong U.S.-Israel relationship is good for the entire world. It's something that we must maintain. See, our two countries are bound together by our shared values and our deep religious convictions, of course. It's the Judeo-Christian foundation that built America. And this is one of the reasons why our nation and Israel have been able to enjoy such harmony and friendship over the years. It's critically important to us for many reasons, not just because of diplomacy and international relations and all the things that bind us to our other allies around the world, but because for so many of us, this is also a matter of faith.
Now I stand before you proudly to accept the Theodore Herzl Medallion. To everyone here at the Zionist Organization of America, thank you for bestowing me with this incredible honor. The United States and Israel are not just allies on a military basis, but economically and politically, we're allies morally, culturally, and spiritually, and we always will be. At least if I have anything to do about it, I will tell you. As president, I was proud to be the best friend. This has been stated by many, so I'm just repeating it, but the best friend the state of Israel has ever had in the White House. I think that's certain. Under my leadership, the alliance between the United States and Israel had never been stronger. The future of the Middle East had never been brighter, it never looked brighter.
How impressive are the friends of ZOA and the power? Really extraordinary, and so many memories too. I'm looking at Mark, and I'm looking at Alan, and I'm looking at everybody thinking about just so many great memories and how many special moments have been in this room too with all of you. So it's very special to be here. I want to make sure also everybody knows that your contributions go to ZOA keeping up this incredible influence all the way to the President of the United States. So please make sure you look at your desks and your tables here especially. You'll see at your tables all of these different donation cards. Please fill it out. Also, there's a QR code. Do whatever you can, please, to help this incredible, incredible organization. There is nothing like the power and the spirit and the love and determination of ZOA. So please, everybody, please do what you can tonight. Thank you for all you can do. Thank you. For me, it's also very personal. As many of you know, my father grew up outside the Warsaw Ghetto. And when my father, who was a Polish resistance fighter, escaped from a Nazi camp, he was 90 pounds and 6 feet tall. He was one of the more healthy ones, rescued by American troops. And my father, at a very young age, decided to help those in the ghetto. My father's Polish Catholic, and he brought in guns, he brought in food, because my father was taught at a very early age, we must all be in this together, and good people must stand together. And I'm so proud, because as many of you guys know, that would have been a death sentence, not just for my father, but for my father's family, for my grandparents, who I never met. While my father was starving in that POW camp, I just learned, as I shared, I think, with all of you guys about a year or so ago, that my grandparents were harboring some of the heroes of the Warsaw Ghetto uprising. And that makes me so, so proud to be here tonight. And I will always stand with all of you. Thank you. Your fight is our fight. And that's why ZOA is not just for those who are Jewish. It's for everybody who loves and appreciates freedom throughout the world. And I'll fight with you until my last breath, just as my parents did and just as my grandparents did. Thank you. Thank you. To bring up our next recipient, we have an incredible human being. And by the way, our next recipient is a dear old friend of mine. He is one of the most stalwart fighters of freedom. I've had the pleasure of knowing Leo. I'm looking at Leo right now. I've probably known Leo 2.0 as they call him, for 20 years, I think, about Leo, right? Leo's been on my shows for so many years. And when he was picked to fight this department, especially fighting against discrimination and leading the fight against anti-Semitism, I could think of no better person, and I was so thrilled to see that you were selected. The President and America thanks you, Leo. We love you, and we're so lucky to have you. So, so lucky. You're going to hear more about the great Leo Terrell in a moment, but I want to bring up the person who's introducing him. CNBC calls him the toughest lawyer on Wall Street, and there's a lot of tough ones, but they call him one of the toughest. And also, Bloomberg considers him the uber litigator. We call him a great friend of ZOA. And to introduce the recipient of the award named after his incredible own father, the Robert Kasowitz Defender of Jewish Civil Rights Award, please welcome the founder of Kasowitz Benson Torres law firm, someone who's been a stalwart supporter of ZOA and the Jewish people, the wonderful Mark Kasowitz, who will be introducing Leo Terrell, and also Moore Klein will be up there for the award too. Please give a big round of applause to Mark Kasowitz, everybody.
Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Mark Kasowitz, and it is my great honor tonight to present the Robert Kasowitz Defender of Jewish Civil Rights Award to Leo Terrell. This award has special meaning for me because it's named for my father, Bob Kazowitz. My dad was not famous, but he was a great man. He fought in Europe in World War II, and he re-enlisted in the Korean War. He built a scrap metal business, and with my mother, he raised a loving family. He put us all through college, and he put me through law school. My father was honest, ethical, and brave. He loved Judaism, and he loved the state of Israel. And he believed that all of us must be uncompromising in protecting our people and our country from the evils of anti-Semitism. I can't think of anybody who embodies my father's character and values better than Leo Terrell. Leo is honest and principled and courageous. He has worked long and hard as a civil rights lawyer to protect the rights and freedoms of all Americans, especially the members of minority groups who have faced historic discrimination and harassment in this country. In Los Angeles, where Leo grew up, he was the chairman of the Black Korean Alliance. He was an advisory board member of the United States Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, and he was a member of California's statewide commission against hate crimes. Leo never backed down from a fight where the rights and freedoms of minority Americans were at stake, and he always used his voice to stand up for others. He investigated misconduct in police departments, and he wrote an authoritative book on employee rights in the workplace. Most recently, Leo Terrell has put his personal life on hold in order to devote himself 100% to his biggest challenge yet: investigating the violent wave of anti-Semitism that has invaded our college campuses and protecting the rights and safety of Jewish students who have been victims of that anti-Semitism, especially in the aftermath of the horrors of the attacks in Israel on October 7th, 2023. At the request of President Trump, Leo Terrell has become senior counsel to the Assistant Attorney General for the Civil Rights Division in the United States Department of Justice, and in that capacity, he is serving as chairman of the DOJ task force to combat anti-Semitism on college campuses. Ladies and gentlemen, I know a thing or two about fighting anti-Semitism in college campuses. My law firm was the first national firm in the United States to bring Title VI lawsuits against major universities after October 7th. We sued Harvard and NYU and the University of Pennsylvania and Columbia and Barnard. We sued them for failing to protect their Jewish students from the vile anti-Semitic attacks, intimidation, and harassment that broke out on those and other campuses after the October 7th massacres. We defeated Harvard's motion to dismiss our lawsuit, and we achieved historic settlements with Harvard, NYU, and Barnard. And those settlements include the obligation of those universities to accept the definition of anti-Semitism and accompanying examples adopted by IRA, the International Holocaust Remembrance Alliance. And under that definition and those accompanying examples, it is anti-Semitic to call for the destruction of the state of Israel. It is anti-Semitic to say that Palestine must be free from the river to the sea. Now, even though our students, who are our clients in these cases, report that things are better on the campuses of Harvard and Barnard and NYU, that things have gotten, that they feel safer, this is only the beginning. There is so much left to do. The task that is facing Leo Terrell and the federal task force that he heads up is monumental. Think about it, ladies and gentlemen. In the year 2023, roughly 80 years after the Holocaust, on October 8th, the day after the horrible murder, torture, and rape of over 1,200 Jews in Israel, and the kidnapping of more than 200 more, the most horrific day in Jewish history since the Holocaust. On that horrible day, pro-Hamas students on university campuses throughout the United States engaged in a perverse celebration. They celebrated Hamas's killing of Jews, and they harassed and intimidated and physically assaulted Jewish students at those campuses. And the universities did not lift a finger to stop it. They did nothing. They were worse than indifferent. They were worse than indifferent to the safety, health, and welfare of Jewish students on their campuses. They were more concerned with the supposed rights of free speech of the pro-Hamas rioters and demonstrators. What a disgrace. And it is that disgraceful display of anti-Semitism and the university's deliberate indifference to it. It's that poisonous anti-Semitism that is metastasizing from these college campuses into our society at all levels. It is metastasizing into our cities, and it is metastasizing throughout the countryside. Everywhere in our great country, anti-Semitism lurks. And in some place, it reigns supreme. You heard the candidate for governor of the state of New York, who I guarantee you is going to win. You heard her say that in New York City, a mayor was elected last week who praises Hamas, who refuses to condemn the river to the sea rhetoric calling for the destruction of the state of Israel and for the death of all the Jews who live there. a mayor who supports the BDS effort to isolate and strangle Israel, who proclaims proudly that he will arrest the Israeli Prime Minister if Bibi Netanyahu sets foot on New York soil. This is the historic and monumental task that Leo Terrell is taking on. And like my father, Bob Kasowitz, who stood up with courage and strength in fighting the Nazis in Europe during World War II, and stood up with courage and strength when he spoke up for Jews in Israel for the rest of his life, Leo Terrell is fighting that war with courage, with principle, with the power of the federal government under President Trump. And there is no doubt, none, that he will prevail. I am deeply honored, and I am personally moved to present the Robert Kasowitz Defender of Jewish Civil Rights Award to Leo Terrell.
Let me tell you right now, I want everyone to understand this. Unlike the previous administration, expect massive lawsuits against UC systems who still practice on the East Coast, on the West Coast, in the Midwest. Expect hate crime charges filed by the federal government. The first time I was on your show, we talked about the campuses and how Jewish Americans were being tormented. Yes. And you talked about Title VI. Yes. Larry, I'm working for the greatest president in my lifetime. Everyone in this country saw what happened the last 3 or 4 years. Jewish Americans were ignored by the federal government, ignored by local officials. Jewish American students couldn't go to school without being harassed. It happened across this country. This is a joint task force to stop this. And I would tell the Jewish community, help is on the way, because Pam Bondi wants to make sure everyone is treated fairly in this new Department of Justice, and that's what we're going to accomplish.
Thank you. Well, I don't know. You may not get a speech tonight or a few words, and thank you very much. You know, I'm out here looking at this group and fighting anti-Semitism. It's so simple because it's wrong. It's absolutely wrong. And what makes this job so important, it is fundamentally right that Jewish Americans are protected in the same shape and manner as all Americans. It's not a Republican issue. It's not a Democratic issue. It is an American issue to fight anti-Semitism. And people say, hey, you're doing a great job. I could do a better job, because it is critical that religious freedom is enjoyed by every person in this great country. And right now, it's not. This award that I received tonight, I did not earn it by myself. I share this award tonight with two great people. One, I share this award with the greatest president in my lifetime, Donald J. Trump. Why? Because President Trump put me in this position to do the right thing, to fight anti-Semitism. And I also share this award with an Attorney General in Pam Bondi,
Because Pam Bondi has said, do whatever you need to do to fight anti-Semitism. And let me tell you right now, it is a 24/7 commitment for me. This is all I do. And during the course of the last 7 to 8 months, I've had the privilege to work with you, to work with the ambassadors, to go to the embassy, to work with people to fight anti-Semitism. And it's everywhere in this country. President Trump and Attorney General Bondi has said, use every tool in the toolbox. And let me sit here and say this. I will not compromise. I will not compromise on fundamental rights. Jewish American students should have the same rights afforded to all students when they go to school. They should not be harassed. They should not be discriminated against. And that will stop under this administration. I am sick and tired of the Jewish tax. What? The Jewish tax. What is that? That is the additional cost of security for Jewish Americans to go to the synagogue, to go to school, to go to work. This Jewish tax has to be eliminated. Jewish Americans should be given the same rights and freedoms to go to wherever they want to without having to pay that additional cost. You know, this president and this administration has done a lot. But ladies and gentlemen, we have a lot to work to do. People say again, hey, you're doing a great job, Leo. No. May I give you some examples for your consideration? About 3 or 4 months ago, 2 Israeli staffers were murdered in Washington, D.C. About 4 months ago, maybe 5. Jewish Americans who were protesting in Colorado were fire burned. Anti-Semitism happens every day across this country, and it cannot be tolerated any longer. That's why I really need your help, because it is a tough and difficult job. More examples. My presenter talked about how the college campuses have been hijacked, and they have, with anti-Semitic curriculum, lesson plans, but they have gone even further. These Jew haters have attacked and have now infiltrated K through 12. Yeah, they're taking the curriculum and they're creating this Jewish hatred in K through 12, first grade, second grade. We have to stop this throughout the country. You see, we cannot get confused with the idea that this is an East Coast, West Coast problem. This is a 50-state problem. Anti-Semitism and hatred is rampant. And what makes it even more insulting is the fact that it's being supported and promoted by organizations and corporations. I don't want to mention any names. CBS, NBC, Washington Post, New York Times, they look the other way. They create stories that try to put this hatred in some type of neutral position. No, it is pure hatred. I have never in my lifetime seen this type of hatred. I taught it as a history teacher about World War II, but what the Jewish Americans are experiencing now is horrific. And when I see that young man right there, our future, this is something that we have to address now more than ever. So let me say this to you. I want to do more. I need you to help me help you. We need to expand the base of those individuals who understand that this is not a Jewish issue. This is not just an American issue. This is a Western civilization issue. And people say, Leo, why are you involved in this? Why do you care? You know why I care? Because I love this country. And I love the understanding that religious freedom is applicable to all. I also understand the Jewish community has been friends to everyone. Yes, they helped create the NAACP in 1909. Yes, Jewish activists went to Mississippi in the 60s and fought for rights, civil rights for black Americans. Jewish Americans, and two of them, Goodman and Werner, were murdered in Mississippi in June of 1964, protecting the rights of black Americans. So I take this not only personal from the standpoint that it is our job, regardless of skin color, regardless of ethnicity, regardless of religion, to make sure everyone is afforded these rights. And that is why I take great pride in this job and take great pride in making sure that all rights that I have, you should have, and everyone should have. Let me just close, because as I said to you, I love my job, but I want to be put out of business. We have to work hard to get me out of work. I need to go into the unemployment line. This job should never be needed, should not be necessary. I want to tell you one last story, and I appreciate this time. This hat that I'm wearing. I have a great chief of staff. Her name is Sarah Goldman. She's right there. Gives me a hard time sometimes. But about 4 months ago, a family named the Golden family came to my office. See, I welcome everyone, and I welcome many of the IDF soldiers and many of the hostages and many of the hostage families. And I've worked with the Israeli embassy and Ambassador Leiter and the other Ambassador Damon. And I had the Golden family in my office. And Mrs. Golden told me about her son, Hadar Golden. This is not a MAGA hat, folks, if you're back there. This is a Hadar Golden hat. And Mrs. Golden came to my office and saying that, she wanted to make sure her son was never forgotten. You see, he was murdered and kidnapped in 2014 by Hamas. 2014. He's been held in captivity for 11 years. And this woman has wanted her son back and give him the decent burial rights. And so after I shook hands with her and her son, I told Sarah and my son, I asked Sarah, I said, what should we do? Because I want to make sure that Hadar Golden is never forgotten and always remembered. And I said, I'm going to make this hat. I'm going to appear anywhere I go. I'm going to wear this hat. And I made 6 of them. I sent the hat to Mrs. Golden and her son, and they have a hat. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm taking the hat off tonight because Hadar is home. He's home. He's home. So, we have a lot to do. God bless America. God bless Israel. God bless you.
presenting is Leo Terrell, the great Leo Terrell. And how beautiful that he was able to take that hat off and that Hagar Golden is home. And let's pray that all of them come home. As I mentioned, there are still several others, and we're waiting for them to be home. But how beautiful to see that moment tonight. Sarah, is really great to see that too. How incredible, how incredible. Also, Mark, how beautiful is your father's service. Mark Hazowitz, your father, World War II and Korea, thank you. And thank you for that beautiful introduction speech. How incredible, bravo. Now for our next award, the person introducing it is someone who we all know and love. He is ZOA's national president, the one and only Mort Klein, everybody.
Thank you so much. Well, this is an extraordinary cavalcade of riches tonight. It's incredible. By the way, I feel I need to say, as a matter of legal responsibility, that ZOA is a 501c3 nonprofit. We do not endorse nor oppose any candidate. That's to protect us. But some of you may have an idea of what my own sympathies might be. It is now my privilege and my honor to present ZOA's prestigious and historic Louis Dembitz Brandeis Award to two dear friends of mine and extraordinary friends of the ZOA, and most importantly, extraordinary friends and warriors for the Jewish people and Eretz Yisrael. Firstly, the brilliant and relentless and consummate warrior for our people, Irit Trat. She's everywhere where she can make a difference for our people. She's on the board of the Republican Jewish Coalition, JINSA, Jerusalem Center for Security and Foreign Affairs, JNS. She was co-chair of the Trump 47 National Women's Leadership Coalition. She writes regularly powerful and important op-eds appearing in Newsmax, Washington Times, Washington Examiner, Allgemeiner, JNS. I myself have learned so much from her insights and from her knowledge, as does anyone who reads her important pieces. Please keep writing those articles, Irit, please. I am so proud and thrilled that a woman of such talent, Irit Trat, thank God, is on our side. And of course, my dear friend, Jonathan Trat, who lives with Irit. I think, I assume it, maybe it's not true, I don't know. Another implacable, fearless, capable, and optimistic warrior for our people and our ancient homeland, and for Torah and Yiddishkeit and Judaism as well. Jonathan Trat has used his God-given talents and fierce tenacity in business as the founder of Trat Properties, working in real estate development, acquisitions, management, construction, overseeing over 5 million square feet of properties, which has enabled Jonathan Trat and Irit Trat to become major yet humble, important philanthropists for Jewish causes, for Israel causes that all of us care about and fight for so very, very much. Thank you for that. Irit and Jonathan, we are grateful and fortunate that you had committed such a substantial portion of your time, of your life, of your talent, of your resources to improve the lives of Jews, of Israeli Jews, to protect and defend the lives of Jews and Israeli Jews. While doing all this, you have also raised, and I thank you for this as well, 3 beautiful Jewish children, Maya, Rachel, and Ari. We need more Jewish children. That's more than a hint. And I see most of the people here are under 25, so it has meaning. It is my honor and my pleasure to present to Arit and Jonathan Tratt ZOA's prestigious and historic Louis Dembitz Brandeis Award. Please come to the podium.
For more than a decade, anti-Semitism, fashionably repackaged as anti-Zionism, has been embedding itself in universities and gaining steam among progressives. For years, some of us have warned well-intentioned citizens of the implications behind the resistance to hold anti-Semitic lawmakers responsible for demonizing and delegitimizing the Jewish state.
My story of being a developer for the last 15 years, but I started my career 30 years ago as a broker. So that transition, if I can do it, anybody can do it.
Jonathan and I want to take a moment to thank Mort Klein and the ZOA staff for this incredible honor, and more importantly, for all that you do on behalf of Eretz Yisrael and Am Yisrael. We also want to acknowledge how humbled and honored we are to be surrounded by so many extraordinary honorees who are giants in the Jewish advocacy space. Ambassador Yechiel Leiter, who we had the privilege of seeing at the RJC conference last week. Israel is so fortunate to have someone with your character, courage, and grace articulate its position and vision here in the United States. Congratulations also to Ambassadors Danny Danon and Ofer Akunis, whose critical voices are needed here at the UN and in New York now more than ever. And to Leo Terrell. I spoke to Leo Terrell a few weeks ago at another event, and I said, you know, things seem to be a bit calmer and quieter on college campuses. He said, Irit, that's not good enough. I will not rest until anti-Semitism is eradicated and completely finished. Leo works day and night, 24/7, to make sure the civil rights of Jewish Americans are protected and defended. Sid Rosenberg is also here. Love listening to your show every morning. And to our dear friend, the next governor of New York, Elise Stefanik, it all began with you. No single lawmaker has done more and has shown greater grit and determination in exposing the moral rot and Jew hatred that was spreading across our universities and the failure of university presidents to confront rising anti-Semitism on their campuses. She is a fearless defender of the Jewish people in Israel. Our families, our children are safer because of you. The morning after Zoran Mamdani won, Rachel, our daughter, who loves President Trump, we all love President Trump in our house, but she got to meet him at Madison Square Garden a little over a year ago. She came downstairs, she said, "Don't worry, Mom, at least we still have President Trump in the White House." I said, "You're absolutely right, Rachel. We do have President Trump in the White House, and thank God next year, New York will fire the worst governor in America, save our state, and elect Elise Stefanik as our new leader." Jonathan and I were not born in America, and unlike the incoming mayor of New York City, who has shown nothing but contempt for the United States, we wake up every morning knowing how fortunate we are to live in the greatest country in the world. The Jewish people have had no greater friend in the White House than President Donald Trump. Out of all his policies, and we love his policies, Jewish Americans gain the most from the immigration reforms implemented by this administration. While this country, before President Trump, was being run by an auto pen, our borders were left wide open, and along with illegal immigration exploding, mass legal migration was happening at record numbers. Foreigners were manipulating our asylum laws. Student visas were being doled out like candy, and this is in large part how we arrived at Zoran Mamdani as the next mayor of New York City. As the late, great Christian Zionist Charlie Kirk once said, "Immigration without assimilation is an invasion. Those who want to see a robust U.S.-Israel alliance and care about the place of Jewish Americans in this country must ensure that advocating for tightening immigration restrictions is at the top of our agenda. We are a tolerant and compassionate people, but that can't come at the expense of our safety. And the truth is that America is the most hospitable nation in the world to diaspora Jewry because America is a Christian nation, and we shouldn't be ashamed to say that we want to keep it that way. As an organization and under the stewardship of Mort, the ZOA has courageously defended Israel while fighting against the disgusting lies being leveled against the Jewish state and the Jewish people. As we gather tonight, we hope you will consider continuing and growing your support for this wonderful organization. Thank you to our family and friends who came out to be with us tonight, and to our 3 children, Maya, Rachel, and Ari. We are so proud of you, we love you, and we can't wait to see you grow into committed Jews, patriotic Americans, and proud Zionists. God bless America. Am Yisrael Chai. Thank you.
A big round of applause for Arit and Jonathan Trad. I said to Arit, you got to keep writing. You got to keep doing those great columns because we all love it so much, and how beautiful to see their family here. I want to bring up now the great folks. These are the co-hosts for tonight's gala, but they're also announcing that great initiative. This is the ZOA Women's Leadership Division, which launches today, which is, you just saw a great strong woman in Arit, and you're going to see many more coming up just now. I want to make sure that we give a shout out to Susan Good. She could not be with us, but Rhonda Small, who is one of the co-hosts for tonight's gala, is with us. And before Rhonda speaks, we have a little video highlighting the great work of this amazing woman.
Shalom. The biblical women of valor, Sarah, Miriam, Deborah, and Esther, led boldly, inspired generations, and shaped the future. Tonight, I invite women to continue their legacy, for that same spirit lives within you. Please take a moment to look around and appreciate that you, along with every woman in this room, are also women of valor, praised for your integrity, resilience, wisdom, and contributions. My name is Susan Good. I'm honored to serve on the National Board of the ZOA and to stand before you as chair of the new Zionist Women's Division. I invite you to join me and my co-chair, Rhonda Small, as we launch an exciting new initiative. Our Women's Division mission is clear: to uphold Israel's sovereignty, to strengthen Jewish philanthropy, to advance education and social good, and to stand united and fearless in the fight against anti-Semitism. The Women's Division will be a movement of Zionist women across America from all walks of life who will unite and connect women committed to making a powerful impact in their communities and beyond. I wish I could be in the gorgeous ballroom to meet and greet each of you and share in the spirit of the evening. Unfortunately, my husband is ill, and my choice is to remain at his side. But with sincere humility and heartfelt gratitude, I invite and encourage you to join Rhonda and me, along with the growing circle of extraordinary women leaders in the new ZOA Women's Division, a vibrant movement of proud Zionist women across America, united in purpose, philanthropy, and love for Israel. Thank you, good night, and may God bless all of you.
Thank you, Susan. And now, without further ado, the great Rhonda Small, everybody, who put this together.
It's such an honor to be here tonight, and I want to thank Mort Klein and his staff for allowing me to be here and to work with Susan to start this new initiative. And my goal here tonight is to invite every woman here and across America that is involved with ZOA and Jewish causes to fill out this card. There's cards on the table. We need you. We want you. We want to create this whole new division across the country to bring Zionist women together to further the purpose and causes and all the good work of ZOA. So please join us. Fill out the card. There's a box at the back of the room. Drop it off there or hand it to me. And we are going to start a grassroots movement across this country that will only strengthen ZOA and all of the good work that has been accomplished. Thank you so much.
Our next recipient has been an incredible ambassador to the United Nations, a great author too as well. I had him on when his book came out. But we are so blessed to have one of the great supporters of Israel and freedom, someone I've known a long time and been so honored every time I've had the privilege to talk with him, the great Ambassador Danny Danon, everybody. But before he comes up, that was a tease. That's what we call it in the broadcast business. But we're really honored to have you here tonight. It's such a privilege, Ambassador. Who better to introduce him than great philanthropist, great businessman, also tremendous friend of ZOA, the wonderful Stephen Sass.
Okay, well, you've heard some nice words this evening, but I want to tell you something. Wake up! Everybody here, wake up! You, your friends, your neighbors, you've got to recognize the real threat against all Jews in the world, and in fact against all rational people. Anti-Semitism and anti-civility are everywhere. And unlike those Jews of the 1920s and 1930s, we know what can happen. And we've got to wake up other people about this. Now, maybe you don't want to own a gun, but take lessons. Know what it is. Krav Maga is a great training ground, no matter what your age. You can do something about the problems and be ready for them. Now, it was mentioned that this is the 87th, it's been 87 years since the Kristallnacht in Germany. Now, I don't know if there's any coincidence to this, but this is also the year 5786 in Jewish calendar. 86, 87, I don't know, there's a striking numerical connection. And we have to be aware of a lot of things. I'm not sure if you know, but the U.S. government, a government I very much favor, but it apparently is close to welcoming leaders of Syria into the fight against ISIS, despite the fact that the Syrian military is just swamped with jihadists, and no telling what they will do. Given this clear threat to everyone, I'm particularly pleased that the award named for my family is being presented to a person who recognizes these threats as a serious matter and as a history of acting against them. Ambassador Danny Danon is being honored with the Outstanding Diplomat Award. Ambassador Danan has had an amazing career in life. He's serving as the ambassador from Israel to the UN for the second time. This is 2 tours in a very hostile environment. Somehow that number 2 comes up for him a lot. He's managed to, at the UN, he managed to progress himself both from heading committees to being the vice chair of the General Assembly. An organization where Israel is routinely scorned, he earned that respect to get to Vice President of General Assembly. Now, ZOA first started working with the ambassador when he was just 28, and he was elected chair of the World Batar movement that was founded by Zev Jabotinsky in Latvia in 1923. The ambassador was president of Batar, which, like ZOA, was not afraid to tell the truth about complacency and the way things had to always be done and should be done. I draw inspiration from the way the ambassador led Batar with fierce independence. Now, Ambassador Danan served as an officer in the IDF. He authorized 2 books, and he served twice in the Knesset. He is a graduate of both Florida International University and Hebrew University. He was Minister of Science, Technology, and Space, as well as Deputy Minister of Defense for the State of Israel, 2 more positions. Since the atrocious attacks on Israel 2 years ago, he's become a fixture on American news programs, setting the record straight on the situation in Gaza, Lebanon, Syria, and Iran. He recently returned to the UN as Israel's ambassador. Like ZOA, Ambassador Danan opposes establishing a Palestinian state, and like ZOA, Ambassador Danan supports extending Israel's sovereignty to Judea and Samaria. What could be more Jewish than Judea? But like ZOA, he has been described as a right-wing thorn in the side of complacent leadership. Even at times, Bibi has gone after him. Today, however, he is a loyal representative of the democratically elected government of Israel and the ever hostile to Israel United Nations. We Jews face problems in this country and the world. It is great to have leaders on our team like the ambassador. We need to follow his example to save the Jewish people and ultimately give hope to all the people of the world. I welcome the ambassador.
History will remember that in the wake of the worst massacre of our people since the Holocaust, that Israel kept its promise to defend our people, to bring our hostages home, and to eliminate future threats to our security.
I think the U.S. should lead because the U.S. give a lot of funding to the UN and they have the power to demand more than Israel. So I do believe in the involvement in the UN, but not the way it's being run today.
While some members of this council will today speak of Gaza's future, the reality is that Hamas remains the true obstacle to peace. Disarmament is not a slogan. It requires action. Weapons must be surrendered, tunnels must be sealed, and rocket factories must be shut down. Before Gaza can be rebuilt, terror must be removed. Before peace can begin, Hamas must lay down its arms.
Erev Tov, good evening. It is wonderful to be among friends. My dear friend, Ambassador Leiter, whenever we meet, I tell you the same joke that you come from DC. You are used to friendly faces. I come from the UN, so being in a room full of ambassadors, devoted Zionists, it's a great experience. Thank you very much all for your love and support for Israel. I want to thank you for the honor, for the recognition. Thank you, Leo, for being here. I want to thank Mort Klein. You know, Mort, I can tell them, I know you for 30 years, Mort, and I want to thank you for your dedication and love and support and our friendship. My friends, had you told me back in 2020, at the end of my first term as Israel's ambassador to the UN, that I would be back in New York, back at the UN, and back at the ZOA dinner, I would probably tell you, thank you, but no thank you. 5 years at the UN, it's more than enough, believe me. But when the Prime Minister calls you during a wartime and asks you to serve your country, you answer. You say yes, and you know that, Yechiel. You don't ask questions. You report. 2 years ago, we the Jewish people faced the darkest day in our modern history. But today, we stand at a historic moment for our region. We achieved what many thought impossible. All of our living hostages are home. The majority of our fallen hostages have been given the dignity of proper burial, and Adar Goldin will be brought to burial in Kfar Saba on Tuesday after 11 years. We will fight for the 4 fallen hostages, and we will bring them back home. And look at Hamas. They were forced to accept what they rejected from the start, to return the hostages and to disarm. But this moment was not born of chance. It was a result of a unique combination of courage and conviction. And it came at a heavy cost, the sacrifice of our soldiers who fought like lions and lionesses to defend our people. More than 1,100 brave soldiers, officers and reservists have been killed since October 7th. We carry their memory in our hearts. I want to share with you one story of Chief Inspector Arnon Zmura. He fought on October 7th. He pushed back the Hamas terrorists. But a few months later, he was called again as a special anti-terrorism unit fighter. He put his uniform, he left his wife, his children, his parents, and he went back to Gaza to rescue our hostages, Noah Argamani, Almog Meir Jan, Andrei Kuzalov, and Shlomi Ziv, all taken from the Nova Music Festival. In the streets of Nusrat, which is the center of Gaza, he led the force. He got into the building. He got the hostages out, but in the line of fire, he was injured. The hostages were extracted, alive. When they flew back to Israel, in the helicopter, the message was clear. The diamonds are in our hands. The diamonds are the hostages. Unfortunately, Arnon was fatally wounded. He sacrificed his life. He gave everything for our country and for our people. His sacrifice will not be forgotten, just as the sacrifice of each and every soldier who has stood in harm's way for Israel will never be forgotten. Tonight, we salute them all. When I left New York in 2020, I didn't think that the UN could get any more hostile toward Israel than it was. But believe me, every day they managed to surprise me, every day. Since October 7th, the UN Security Council has not passed a single resolution condemning Hamas for its massacre, not even one. They found time to have discussions about genocide, starvation, all those lies. But we brought the voices of former hostages into the halls of the UN. We fought them, and my dear friend Jeff from the U.S. Mission, Ambassador Bartos, thank you for being with us. I want to thank the U.S. Mission for the UN. Together we fought to bring Mia Shem, Noah Argamani, Eli Sharabi, a few weeks after we got out from the tunnels, into the hold of the UN, so the world would hear the unimaginable cruelty they endured. Week after week, we reminded the world who started this war and that it cannot end until every hostage is home. Now, Mort, you said we don't speak politics here tonight. And you know that New York braced for Zoran Mamdani to take office. We at the UN, we have our own issues with Antonio Guterres, the Secretary General of the United Nations. You know, he hasn't visited Israel even once since October 7th. Think about it for one moment. He's the Secretary General of the United Nations, the organization which was established 80 years ago to prevent atrocities like October 7th, and he couldn't find the time to come to Israel. So when I came back, I met him. We had a very good relationship. I even had him for Shabbat dinners. I went to his house, he came to my house, and I asked him, I told him, Antonio, how come? How come, you know, you have private jets? Come for one day. You know what he told me? The Prime Minister didn't send me a formal invitation. Shameful. Shame on him for that. We also face legal warfare. You hear about the ICJ, the ICC, they come against us. You know, countries that you don't think about it, Norway, Ireland, they come with resolutions against Israel. And I want to share with you that the new initiative of Norway is to pass a resolution that will force us to work with UNRWA. You all know about UNRWA. This is a terrorist organization. They decided to invade UNRWA, to infiltrate UNRWA. And that's what happened before October 7th. And I will remind my colleagues at the UN that those teachers and medics in UNRWA, they collaborated with Hamas. I will remind them of Jonathan Samerano, Zichrono Levracha. Jonathan was murdered and kidnapped by Hamas terrorists. His body was paraded into Gaza on an UNRWA vehicle. His murderer was an UNRWA employee. You can see that video. You know, after this terrorist returned home, he was not met with justice. He was met with a UN paycheck. But don't worry, we found him. We got him. He was eliminated. And when the ICJ advisory opinion will come to a vote in the General Assembly in about 10 days, I will tell my colleagues that no advisory opinion of the ICJ, no report, no resolution will change our minds. Israel is done with UNRWA, and so the US. We are dealing with diplomatic terrorism at the UN. But despite the pressure, the bias, the pain, and the sacrifice, we can see positive change in the region. Lebanon has a short window of opportunity to take control of their future. Tomorrow, the new leader of Syria will visit the White House. I'm sure you will hear very interesting headlines tomorrow coming from the White House. The fall of the Assad regime has created hope for a more peaceful and stable region. Israel has restored deterrence on multiple fronts, from Gaza to Yemen to Iran. For this, we can be so proud of our soldiers, our sons and daughters, who showed the world that the days when Jews were massacred and there was no response are over. Not anymore. Today we have the IDF, we have the Air Force. We have proved that today we are capable of defending ourselves and securing our future. My friends, I am optimistic tonight about our future, because in our region, strength earns respect. and we have more than proven our capabilities. I meet with Arab ambassadors, and they admire us after what we did in Lebanon, in Tehran. One of them approached me and told me, Ambassador Danon, I want to come to Tel Aviv to meet the guy who developed the pagers. So I told him, go back to your leader and tell him to move forward with the normalization, because by the time you will come to Israel, those guys will be in the private sector making billions. And I think we will see normalization soon with this country. As Israel's ambassador to the UN, I'm sort of a diplomatic weatherman. I'm the first to sense when the atmosphere is changing before anyone says it out loud, or before you hear about it in the news. I feel it in the way I'm being greeted or not greeted, in the small differences in how I'm spoken to, when ambassadors who once ignored me suddenly ask for a meeting. And right now, I can tell you, the weather is shifting in our favor. There is clearer sky ahead for Israel. Whether you call them the Abraham Accords or the Abraham Accords, they opened the door. Now it is time to widen it. Moderate Arab and Muslim nations are signaling readiness. Kazakhstan is set to be the latest signatory to the accords across the region. Yes? Quiet discussions about cooperation that once seemed impossible are becoming reality. Once we finish the job in Gaza, bring the 4 fallen hostages home, and ensure Hamas's disarmament, it will be time to build again. I want to thank you. I want to thank ZOA. For more than a century, you have been the guardians of proud Zionism in the United States. You defend Israel when it is fashionable and when it is not, when it is easy and when it is costly. When others are quiet, you stay loud, you stay clear. The history books will remember October 7th as a day of tragedy, but it will also remember what the Jewish people did in the hours, months, and years that followed. Our nation stood united, resilient, and strong. Together, we will win. Together, we will prevail. Am Israel Chai. Toda Rabba.
The great ambassador, Danny Danon, who, boy, has a lot of work there at the UN, and we're lucky to have him. Wow, wow, wow. And also Jeff Bartos, who's also there at the UN helping him so much. Thank you. You are terrific. You really are, Jeff. And I'm glad that the ambassador said the weather forecast that it's blue skies for Israel. So we are praying for that. Thank you for just being such a great fighter there at the UN. They're so lucky to have you. We are so lucky to have you. God bless. Thank you so much. Thank you. Our next recipient, we talked about the ambassador, of course, from Israel to the UN. And our next recipient, our final recipient of this evening, and then we have Mort speaking, so just a little bit left of the program. But we're saving some of the best for last. Our next recipient is an incredible ambassador. He started in January, not that long ago there in Washington. And I'm very jealous of him because he used to be very close and spent a lot of time with Ariel Sharon. I had the great honor, I think one of the most wonderful days of my life. First, I had not one of the most wonderful days. I was with Yasser Arafat at the compound at the Makata when he agreed to do an exclusive interview with me. But then he passed on a message to me because he knew who I was meeting with the next day, and that was then the great Prime Minister Ariel Sharon. So that was such a blessing to spend. I spent the day with him at the Negev. And our next recipient was very close to him and has been very close and loyal to Israel and has been an incredible representative to Washington, D.C., for Washington, for America, for Israel, for the world, and for freedom. We are so lucky to have you here. Ambassador Leiter, thank you. How blessed are we to have you here? To introduce Ambassador Leiter, we have a great presenter. He's a longtime friend of ZOA, former National Board Treasurer. He's a prominent dairyman Zionist and a great philanthropist. And he is introducing the recipient, Ambassador Leiter, of the Dr. Miriam and Sheldon G. Adelson Defender of Israel Award. Joining us by video first is Mr. Henry Schwartz.
Good evening. Yechiel Leiter and I share a deep bond that has endured for over 40 years. Having made Aliyah as a teenager and later settling in Hebron to raise his family, Yechiel has lived the biblical mission to settle and build our land of Israel. When he came back to America as a young representative of Yeshua, I sensed that this was only the beginning of a much larger journey, one that would one day bring him to the center stage of Jewish destiny. From that moment, I embraced not only Yechiel, but his family as well. Watching them grow has been a profound privilege. As a resident and community leader in Yehudan Shebron, later in Eli, Yechiel, together with Hani, raised 8 remarkable children, living proof of what commitment and faith can build. Yechiel is without a question the most inspiring speaker I've ever heard. His words flow effortlessly, infused with Torah wisdom and Zionist conviction, echoing a life that intertwines personal sacrifice with national purpose. His beloved son Moshe gave the ultimate sacrifice, falling in defense of our people in the earliest days of this war. That heroism, no doubt, was learned from his parents. It's part of Yechiel's very being. It's the flame that fuels his historic mission today as Israel's ambassador to the United States. He is performing his role with courage, brilliance, and unwavering devotion during one of the most critical periods in our nation's history. Like Yechiel, we too must bring the vibrancy of the diaspora into Israel's ongoing story. Personally, I am unabashedly devoted to strengthening Israel through my work with ZOA and other Zionist initiatives. I'm humbled by the tireless dedication and courage of Mort Klein, whose unwavering advocacy sets an example for all of us. Both Yechiel and Mort remind us that our efforts must go even further. Yechiel and his son Moshe personify what it means to dedicate one's life to Am Yisrael. Just as Moshe Rabbeinu passed the mantle of leadership to Joshua, saying, "Be strong and courageous," so too does Yechiel's life and leadership echo that same timeless message. May Hashem bless him in this holy mission, and may he continue to inspire all of us.
You're a historian, a public policy analyst. You've worked with Prime Minister Sharon, Prime Minister Netanyahu. You've written books, papers, and done incredible things for the Jewish people. But you're sitting here in a very different capacity as the father of Moshe, 39-year-old, who gave his life for our people in Gaza.
You know, we just celebrated Hanukkah. So it's all nice and cozy and warm. You know, we've got donuts and a dreidel, and we sing some songs and light the candles, but we forget that, you know, all of Matityahu's sons died in battle. And we wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for those Maccabees who gave their lives. But can we really appreciate Hanukkah if we don't appreciate the Maccabees of today? The soldiers right now, as we talk, willing to give their lives for the Jewish people in the state of Israel, our modern-day Maccabees.
Please welcome Ambassador and Rabbi, Ambassador Leiter.
My esteemed colleagues, Ambassadors Danon, Akunis, my dear friend, the indefatigable Leo Terrell, administration officials. You mentioned that you know Mort for 30 years, Donnie. I think I know you for 40, Mort. It must be the ZOA that keeps you so young. Thank you to my dear friend and really older brother, Henry Schwartz, for the kind introduction, too kind. I feel that I really can't receive an award called the Defender of Israel Award. The only way I could receive such a distinguished honor would be if I do so on behalf of the real defenders of Israel, the soldiers of Israel. Soldiers, over 900, who have given their lives over the past 2 years, and the hundreds of thousands who have served with distinction, some for 450 days, who've left their families, left their jobs, and fought like lions. In Gaza, Lebanon, over the skies of Tehran, over the skies of Yemen, and in places that we still can't talk about. They're the defenders. It's on their behalf that I receive this award. On my first day of the job, January 27th, a Monday, no sooner than I sat down in my chair as ambassador and I received a call from the Prime Minister. He said, "The joke's on you. I'm coming next week." I said, "Do I have 100 days of grace?" He said, "You don't have 100 minutes." And ever since that day, it hasn't been 100 seconds of grace. And my staff came in and they said, "You know, the Prime Minister comes, you can't go into the Oval Office before you present your credentials to the President. It normally takes about 2 months. They bring in about 10 ambassadors all at once, and he shakes hands and you're out." But the White House said they're going to expedite matters and you'll be able to come in and present your credentials next Tuesday morning before the Prime Minister meets with the President. But in order to do so, you have to submit a letter to the Secretary of State. So my staff came in. I have the best staff of any embassy in Washington, of any Israeli embassy in the world. And they brought in a wonderful letter. I sat and read the letter, and I said, "This is great," but it wasn't me. Now, it didn't matter to the President, to the Secretary of State, or to anybody else. But my father came to this country 1938, a refugee from Hitler, 8 years old, with a piece of bread in his pocket and a dollar bill in the other. And here I am about to represent the state of Israel to the President of the United States. So I said, staff, let me rework this letter. I asked for some quiet. And I thought a minute. Didn't take me very long. I said, the first sentence of my letter to the Secretary of State will read as follows. It'll be the first sentence and the first paragraph. And this is what I want to leave you with this evening. I represent a people indigenous to the state of Israel, period. Analyze everything that we have faced for 2 years. Analyze everything that we are facing today, and it comes down to that one sentence. If we are not indigenous to the land of Israel, all of them are right, and we're wrong. And everything they do can be reasoned away and deemed moral. And everything we do can be deemed immoral. And what we have to say loud and clear is that we are not conquerors, conquistadors, aliens, colonialists, or occupiers. The land of Israel and the people of Israel were born together. Zionism is not a product of the 19th century. Political Zionism in modern garb is a product of the 19th century. Zionism as depicting the bond and expressing the unbreakable bond between the people of Israel and the land of Israel is the beginning of Jewish history. Lech lecha, go forth, Abraham, to the land which I will show you. That is where our history begins. That is where Judaism begins. And it is high time that when somebody says to a Jewish audience, I recognize your right to exist, or better, I recognize your right to defend yourself, that they receive no applause. If you said to somebody from Belgium, I recognize your right to exist, he'd laugh you out of the room. If you said to someone from Burkina Faso, you have a right to defend yourself, he'd wave his hand and walk away. But say to a Jew, you have the right to defend yourself, and we say thank you. Say to the people of Israel, we recognize your right to exist, and we're supposed to bow and say thank you. There is one thing which must draw applause. We must drill this home to everyone speaking to a Jewish audience. I recognize that the Jewish people are indigenous to the land of Israel. And I ask you for one thing, and with this I leave you. When I would ask my son, my oldest son Moshe, how is it that your knees don't buckle and your back doesn't break when you carry these 60, 70 kilograms on your back in these hikes that never end? In the Air Force Special Ops in which you serve. And he smiled and he said, Abba, I add weight. He said, Moshe, you have a wonderful sense of humor, but I'm asking you seriously. He said, no, Abba, I'm very serious. I add weight. Okay, what do you mean you add weight? I said, Abba, it's simple. I add the hopes and prayers and dreams of my bubbies and zadies on my shoulders, and that makes the weight that I'm carrying much easier to bear. And I say to you all, ladies and gentlemen of the great ZOA, add a little weight to your shoulders. The Jewish people needs you. And the first weight you add to your shoulders must be, I represent a people indigenous to the land of Israel. Thank you very much.
Everybody, obviously, since you're standing, another great round of applause for Ambassador Leiter. Thank you so much, Ambassador. What a powerful speech. May we all carry the weight and inspiration of Israel. Thank you. How beautiful. And Mr. Ambassador, thank you for your son, and thank you for the courage of all the IDF fighters. Would everybody please stand and give a big round of applause for Ambassador Leiter's son, who made the ultimate sacrifice, and so many of our great heroes who are still there fighting for freedom. We have just one more speaker tonight, and it is the great Mort Klein. And to introduce Mort is someone we know very well. He's a former superstar at Goldman Sachs. He is the founder of his own very prestigious private credit manager firm, Monachil Partners. Born in Iran, he was educated at MIT and is one of the most significant advocates for regime change in Iran. As we all know, that is the head of the snake. He is a true friend of ZOA, a devoted friend of Israel, and here to introduce his dear friend and our dear friend, the great Mort Klein. Please also welcome Ali Melli. And before you give a big round of applause, I just want to say thank you. I love being with all of you. I am always with you. I am always with Israel. And it is such a tremendous honor to be here tonight. I love you all. Thank you. It's such an honor to be with all of you tonight. And please, everybody, without further ado, Ali Melli.
Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, and fellow supporters of the Zionist Organization of America, it is a profound honor to stand before you today as a dedicated ZOA supporter, invited to introduce a man, Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, and fellow supporters of the Zionist Organization of America, it's an honor to introduce a leader whose commitment to Israel and the Jewish people has defined pro-Israel advocacy for decades. In a divided world, support for ZOA unites diverse voices through shared goals and common values, not mere opposition to common foes, but a deep conviction that you don't need to be Jewish to protect Jewish lives. Focusing on these principles is vital today. They transcend backgrounds, prevent divisions, and drive cooperation against hatred. Mort's story is one of resilience and principled conviction. Born in 1947 in a displaced persons camp in Gunsberg, Germany, to Holocaust survivors, he immigrated to Philadelphia at age 4, excelled academically with degrees in math, economics, and statistics, and built a career as an economist in US administrations and a biostatistician at UCLA, collaborating with Nobel laureate Linus Pauling. In the late 1980s, his passion to combat anti-Israel bias drew him to ZOA. In 1993, amid crisis, his unyielding principles revitalized it from near collapse into a powerhouse. Effective as he stands by truth, protects allies, and refuses to compromise. Mort embodies timeless values. As Jewish teachings remind us, it is not incumbent upon you to finish the task, but neither you are free to absolve yourself from it. Do the right thing. Fight on the side of justice and trust God for the outcome. He channels Barry Goldwater's spirit. Extremism in defense of liberty is no vice, and moderation in the pursuit of justice is no virtue. Pursuing righteousness without apology. Under his guidance, ZOA has been on the right side of history on every issue, in every instance, from warning against the disastrous Oslo Accords, opposing the Gaza withdrawal that empowered Hamas, advocating to defund UN Rawa over anti-Semitic teachings, and rejecting the catastrophic JCPOA-Iran nuclear deal, with major victories like US recognition of Jerusalem and the Golan Heights, embassy relocation, defunding pay to slay, and affirming Jewish communities in Judea and Samaria. Mort has testified before Congress and the Knesset, organized rallies, and earned accolades for defending Israel. Embodying never again, he fights anti-Semitism with truth. As anti-Semites seek to make a home on both the left and the right, from victors in New York mayoral elections calling to globalize the Intifada, to media personalities and pundits purporting to be conservative while espousing anti-Semitism, even certain prominent organizations on the right are not at risk of succumbing to this poison. Our battle endures. We need more voice more than ever. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Morton Klein.
As a child of Holocaust survivors, I personally felt the horrors of unbridled anti-Semitism. We are trying to educate American Jews in the truth of these issues. I think once Jews understand it, they will be strong supporters.
Morton Klein is here, the national president of the Zionist Organization of America.
Joining us on the line is Morton Klein. He's national president of the Zionist Organization of America, one of the only actual Zionist organizations in America.
Joining us now is Morton Klein, national president of ZOA. Shalom.
Shalom, shalom. It's great to be in the holy Jewish city of Yerushalayim.
Donald Trump clearly stated, if Hamas breaks the ceasefire, the U.S. and Donald Trump will support Israel doing whatever it needs to do to crush Hamas. To maintain Donald Trump's credibility and not be seen as a paper tiger, he must now make it clear that Israel must go in and finish the job of destroying
You're
Hamas.
one of the most effective and important voices that we have on this subject. It's why I love the ZOA. I love what you do. I love your effectiveness.
Well, thank you so much. I'm here to give you what this audience needs. One more speech. First of all, you don't have to worry, I've shortened my remarks dramatically. But I wanted to, before I give you my very short remarks, I wanted to thank Rita Cosby for an extraordinary evening. Really articulate, knowledgeable, and you read everything exactly the way I wrote it out for you, so I appreciate that. Let me just say a few things. There are 53 Arab countries, 53 Muslim countries, there's 22 Arab countries. Most of these Arab countries were put together haphazardly by certain important nations. Israel was given to the Jewish people by Hashem, by God, by the Bible, and under international law. The UN Charter, Article 80, says that it prohibits, this is international law, prohibits the UN from transferring rights over any part of Palestine to any non-Jewish entity, such as a Palestinian state. UN resolution that contradicts this charter are void. That's why there's no Palestinian state. It's against international law. So as long as Israel says no to a Palestinian state, there can't be a Palestinian state, or it would violate international law. We should realize that and understand that. Unlike most Jewish groups, we, the ZOA, we push back against the lies and the hatred, as we always have, by going on TV, radio, op-eds, speeches, on campuses, Capitol Hill, in the courts. We do everything we can. Lately, we have fought against the Heritage Foundation. The Heritage Foundation has embraced Tucker Carlson. Tucker Carlson used to condemn Pat Buchanan for being an anti-Semite. Do you know that? He used to condemn him. Now Tucker Carlson says that Christian supporters of Israel have a brain virus and they're committing heresy against Christianity. He said, I dislike them more than anyone. He accuses Donald Trump, Ronald Reagan, Ambassador Mike Huckabee, thank you, Secretary of State Rubio, Hegseth. He's accusing them of a brain virus and being heretical to Christianity. It's nonsense. He accuses Americans who fought to support America destroying nukes in Iran as warmongers. And he condemns those, and he says those who fought against destroying the nukes, he calls them peacemakers. But not only does he make terrible statements against Jews himself, he brings on a half a dozen of the most vicious, maniacal, crackpot anti-Semites the world knows. These people deny the Holocaust. They praise Hitler as being cool and awesome. They praise Stalin. They attack Charlie Kirk for being pro-Israel. And unlike when he interviewed Ted Cruz, who was very pro-Israel, he attacked Cruz, condemned Cruz, debated Cruz. When these people made these outrageous statements, he suddenly was silent. He either nodded in approval or said nothing, acting as if these people are making valid points, which of course they're just a bunch of crackpot Jew haters. And Kevin Roberts of Heritage called people who criticize Tucker Carlson as venomous people who have another people's agenda. He accused Jews of dual loyalty, another people's agenda, Israel's agenda. It's total rubbish. We went to war against him, op-eds, TV, radio. We said you must retract, apologize, and condemn Tucker. You must end relations of Tucker, or you must resign yourself. Because of ZOA and others, the Esther Anti-Semitism program at the Heritage Foundation has now severed all relations with Heritage. They're gone. And there's an increased effort to ultimately dismiss this man as well. With respect to the election, I just want to say we should understand only 50% of the New Yorkers voted for this guy. That's very unusual. Mayoral elections, you get 60, 70% of the vote. So he only got 50%, and we must understand the demographics of New York have changed. Because of open borders, the number of Muslims in New York has gone from 10 years ago, 100,000 Muslims, to 1 million. Yes, the demographics have changed. The people of America has not changed so much, but the demographics have changed. That's what happened. And also large numbers of conservative right-of-center people have left New York, moved to Florida and elsewhere. You had a totally different demographic. That explains one of the reasons this vicious, communist, racist, Jew-hating, Israel-bashing monster was elected. And what's frightening, though, there's a huge danger that Jew hatred and Israel bashing has become a badge of conscience and enlightenment. There's been a moralization and legitimization and mainstreaming of bigotry against Jews. Bigotry is disguised as principle. Hatred is baptized as virtue. Hostility to Israel now indicates decency and high morals. We at the ZOA will fight these dangerous and monstrous lies with all of our hearts and souls. No appeasement, no conciliation, only a war against this racist hatred of the Jewish people. As Barbara Tuchman said, the rule of human behavior is that yielding to an enemy's demands does not satisfy them, but by exhibiting a position of weakness, it augments the enemy. It doesn't terminate hostility, it excites hostility. Our Torah teaches us to fight Jew hatred, be strong, proud, and powerful Jews, work to strengthen the Jewish state, raise proud Jewish children give them a Jewish education, attend synagogue, build Jewish institutions, and tell your kids to marry Jewish people. Reduce the amount of intermarriage. We need more Jews, not less. We Jews arose from the onslaughts throughout the Middle Ages, from the pogroms in the 1800s. We miraculously arose again from the ashes of Auschwitz to reestablish our beautiful state of Eretz Yisrael in 1948. This is really the lesson of our history, that the indomitable spirit of the Jewish people, with our belief in ourselves, in our culture, in our talent, in our Torah, in Almighty God, we can never be destroyed. For God promised we would be an eternal people. And unlike politicians, God keeps his promises. So the miracle of a Jewish state, due to another miraculous victory against great odds, a victory over 40 million Arabs in 1948, where the Jews were vastly outnumbered and outarmed, and yet overcame and defeated those who would destroy us. As we are in our 78th year of the reestablishing the state of Israel, we who care about and love the Jewish state of Israel, we have to continue to believe in miracles, because that is the history of our people. One miracle after another that we could not foresee, that saved us and promoted us and protected us. Who would have believed that Israel, which began with 600,000 Jews 78 years ago, would now have 9 million people with 7 million Jews in Israel? That is a miracle. Who would have believed that almost 80 years ago, there were 6% of the world's Jewish population was in Israel, and today, in 2025, half of the world's Jews live in Israel. It's a miracle. And who would have believed that Israel would make the desert bloom, just as the Torah promised us? The Torah says the Holy Land will remain barren until the Jews return, and that's just what happened. It's a miracle. If people wrote the Bible, the Torah, they wouldn't write it'll remain barren, because suppose things grow, then you can throw the Bible out the window. Only God, who controls history and controls land, he's the one who said it will remain barren, and so it has. The story of Gush Katif, Gaza, proves this. The land the Arabs called accursed. As soon as the Jews came to this land in Gaza, they began to yield the most beautiful fruits, flowers, and plants. The tiny portion of land in Gaza yielded at one time most of the agricultural exports of Israel, this barren land. Yet when the Jews left, the land became useless again. It became barren again. Even the insects participated. The vegetables that had once been famously bug-free began to develop bugs. The thriving business of Gush Katif languished in the hands of the Arabs. Even the managers who worked under the Jews, the Arab managers, and had all the expertise to make it go, couldn't. The land did not cooperate, because God controls history. This is an extraordinary miracle, proving the truth of the Bible. It's enough to make you lay tefillin and keep Shabbos and keep kosher and start to daven every day. And who would have believed that 2 years since this war began, Israel has degraded Hamas, Hezbollah, Iran, and Syria? It's a miracle from God that this is going to happen. No one could have predicted this 2 years ago. And who would have believed that we now have more students studying in yeshivas in Israel than at any time in Jewish history? It's a miracle. And who would believe that for the first time in history, a country would bring black people to its shores, to its country, Ethiopian Jews, not to be slaves, but to be a free and proud people? That country is Israel, and I am so proud of Israel for doing that. And who would believe that after 2,000 years of dispersion, there are now 500,000 Jews in the holy city of Jerusalem, 500,000 Jews or more in the holy land of Yehuda and Shomron, given to the Jewish people by the Lord our God, King of the universe. And after 2,000 years, we Jews have sovereignty over all of the historically holy Jewish city of Jerusalem, never to be divided again, and that is a miracle. We at ZOA will live by the Midrash on Esther, which says, if you keep silent now, if you refrain from protesting on behalf of your brethren, then woe to you in the day of judgment, for you had the opportunity to act, but did not. We will act. As the prophet Ezekiel said, if the watchman sees the sword advancing against the Jews and doesn't blow his horn, so that the Jewish people are not warned, and the sword comes and destroys even one Jew, I, said God, will demand a reckoning if you don't protect your people. Let me assure you, together with Israel, with the Israel Defense Forces, ZOA will blow and blow and blow its horn for the Jewish people and for Israel. We'll blow the horn relentlessly, continuously, tirelessly, courageously, and the Jewish people will prevail. We have to be strong and not be afraid, for God is with us. The cause of Israel is moral and is just. We must act and speak out with courage. Truth and justice and God are on the side of Israel and the Jewish people. With your help, with the strength and will of the Israeli people, with the strength and power of the IDF, and with the will of Almighty God, new miracles will happen that we cannot foresee. And these miracles will ensure that the people of Israel shall dwell in their holy land for eternity. We will prevail. Thank you very, very much. I think there's dessert in the back for those who still have a desire to eat. And by the way, I want to urge you, please fill out the forms, support ZOA so we can continue to fight stronger and stronger and stronger. I appreciate your support. We need it. Things are not easy, and we will win over our enemies. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you for joining the ZOA Superstar Gala. This concludes our program. Drive safely and good night.
בלי ערך, בלי דמיון, בלי שינוי ותמורה, בלי חיבור, בלי פירוד, גדול כוח וגבורה, והוא אלי בחי גואלי, וצור חבלי בצרה, והוא ניסים ומנסים, מנת כוסי ביום אקרא